So on to our next step. This is long lining. So this video was taken again about 2 weeks after our previous lunging video. Jester is wearing the same equipment that he was before, namely a saddle pad, a surcingle, a bridle with a snaffle bit, and a halter over that bridle. So what you can see me doing is starting to attach the long lines to Jester. I'm going to pause the video for 1 second to explain what's happening while I'm hooking Jester up. So this is not the first time Jester has had long lines on. There is a whole process that I go through with each young horse that introduces them to the long lines in general. And that includes getting them used to the long lines moving around their body, making sure they're comfortable with having one long line go around the outside of their body, over their butt, down towards their hocks. So that's not what this video is about, but know that there is a whole process of desensitization that has to happen before I will put a horse in long lines and do a full session like you're about to see with Jester. So as I'm connecting Jester with both long lines, I am pretty careful about actually keeping the lines organized and separate, because the last thing you want to do is have all your lines tangled and have a young horse start to move or take off, or in any ways be unprepared to hold on to your long lines when you start moving. So it's taken me many years to be able to hold both long lines in a semi-organized fashion, and there are people that are much better at it than I am, but I make do. So now, as you can see, I'm reorganizing my lines. I like to keep them one in each hand, and so as I'm organized, then I tell Jester, okay, we're ready to go. And I grab my whip and off we go. So now I am immediately having to steer him, and he's a little bit unsure at first which way we're going. So now we're walking around, and so I have a line in my right hand and a line in my left hand. My right hand going this direction is connected to the outside of Jester's body, and my left hand is connected to the inside of his body. And that's really important because I'm starting to use those aids as true steering aids. Now, standing in the middle in a lunging position, that makes this, for me, long lining instead of ground driving. For me, ground driving is when I'm standing directly behind the horse. And here I start actually putting my steering to work. So I'm having Jester make a smaller turn and then change direction. And you can see I made a pretty slow change of direction there. Didn't want him to get startled. It's very difficult for a young horse to understand that they're going to see you out of their inside eye, and then as they change direction, they're going to see you then out of their new inside eye. Occasionally that really does startle some young horses. As we're walking around, I'm reorganizing my lines there. I will always end up with having a little shorter line on the hand connected to the inside of the horse's body, because that's a little more crucial for my steering. The line and hand that's connected to the outside of the horse's body helps me, again, a little bit with steering, a little bit with balance and a half halt, but the inside rein is doing the majority of the steering. Now, right there, I asked Jester to whoa, and I did so by saying whoa, and I applied pressure on both lines evenly, just like I would if I were riding. And of course, Jester does a great job and responds, and now I send him forward. So now we are trotting with the long lines. My outside hand that's connected to the outside of Jester's body is really being careful that that outside line does not fall below his hocks. We really keep the line under the horse's tail over the hocks, and I don't want it much lower than that because then I risk the line getting tangled in the horse's legs. And this is just something that takes practice and many horses and many years, but it still is an important function that any person that trains young horses has to learn. Now, I'm making the circle smaller here, so I'm using my inside rein, obviously, to help Jester stay on a circle, but I'm using my outside rein to keep him balanced. And there, I do a change of direction at the trot. I have to quickly change from having one rein be the guiding pressure on the inside, using my outside rein, having him change direction and keep trotting. As we're going this direction, as you saw me reorganize my lines again, having to keep that outside line from getting too long, but I also don't want it to be too tight because I don't want Jester to feel any pressure like he has to slow down. This is a real balance of using both rein aids to accomplish what you want the young horse to do. So as I finish up this session with Jester, I'm really pleased to see that he's understanding the steering, he's staying relaxed, the lines don't bother him, he seems to be understanding the whoa and the go. So I'm really pretty confident that he's going to be prepared for all the aids that I'm going to use in our initial rides under saddle.